Hello everybody, welcome back to Collective Creative Initiative. With our final session of the day, we have Mary Burch, who's coming with us to do a mental health webinar. Here we go, Mary. Hi.
Hello, my apologies, I think I've kept everyone late. Technical problems. And I think with technical problems, and I'm ending with technical problems, but here's a pattern. So there we go.
I'm sure our viewers are very sympathetic to the various technical issues that we've all come across this year that we probably never thought we'd ever have to deal with. I'm going to leave you to it, Mary. So enjoy your session. Have a great time. But if you do need me, I'm just behind the scenes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Right. So again, apologies for being a little late. I'm working with a different laptop. And I was trying to be able to share some slides with you, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. So the second part of that might be me just reading a few things and not sharing the wonderful pictures that I put together. But today, I think talking about rejection and talking about resilience, and again, when I come on here, and I never know if it's coincidence that, you know, for example, that rejection is something I'm going to talk about. And then I notice with clients that, you know, every client, there's something around rejection, and the same with resilience. So I don't know if that is just coincidence that I'm noticing it more, or they just, yeah, it's just perfect, some of the examples that come up. But talking about rejection, and for those in the creative industry, I know rejection is not new to you, that it's something that you deal with, gosh, every day, every week. But it's also something we all deal with, rejection. We've all experienced rejection in our lives in some way, and yeah, creatives perhaps more than others, depending on your view of what not being successful, you know, in that edition, if you're not successful, does that feel like rejection? And then maybe, or do you just take it in your stride and you move on to the next thing? And I hear both from creatives, where some will come on and go, yep, that's it. It just wasn't for me. I'm looking forward to the next one. And others who can be quite devastated by the rejection, what they perceive as a rejection in an audition, a self-tape, a job interview, whatever. So I wonder, do you take it personally? That rejection, is it personal? Do you experience the pain of rejection? I remember reading somewhere just recently that, and I call it pain of rejection because what we feel is actually with rejection is very similar in our brains to the pain that would, you know, if we caught our hand in a door or we stubbed our toe. It's that physical pain, and that's what we're experiencing with rejection, is that pain. But why is that then, that one person can shake it off and yet another feels as if they're cut to their core? And you know, isn't it strange? What is that about? And it isn't just about the emotions that we experience when we feel rejected. Fear of rejection, well, it can get in the way of not just our professional lives, but our personal lives as well. That fear, perhaps, of submitting a self-tape, the fear of submitting that writing project, the job application, just in case you're rejected. The fear of showing love to someone, the fear of asking someone out, perhaps just even the fear of asking for a favour from someone, such as, you know, you need a lift somewhere, to the GP, to the hospital, to the airport. The fear of asking someone a simple thing such as, can you pick this up from the shop for me? it gets in the way. That fear of rejection can get in the way of so many things. When you hear that case, that answer is no. And I can identify with that a little. And when I was looking at sort of writing some notes on that, and I go back, talk more about it, but going back to my childhood and that fear of asking for something from parents because expecting the answer to be no. And the one that stuck in my mind was I remember playing badminton for school, being selected to play for school. And I was asked to bring my own racket, and I had to ask my dad to buy me a badminton racket. And the fear that was associated with that, the build up to that, because expecting the answer to be no, that fear of rejection. By the way, he did buy me a badminton racket. But during lockdown, you know, I've had lots of conversations with clients where they felt rejected. Clients who have perhaps gone to live with parents and feeling rejected by parents. They feel that parents don't want them at home. They're feeling that rejection. Feeling rejected by friends who they feel are perhaps excluding them from events, excluding them from get-togethers, or just, you know, friends they feel just don't seem to have the time to chat, that they don't want to chat, they don't want to listen, that they don't want to meet up. And I wonder if that's been your experience over the last few months or recently, feeling rejected by family, by friends, by housemates. You know, a partner just who perhaps after a long day at work comes home and relaxes by playing a computer game, by going onto the computer and playing some games, and the partner feeling rejected. You go, well, what's that about? And with the client, just, you know, when we started to explore the feelings of the partner who felt rejected, we started, you know, noticing that goes back to their own experiences. Thinking about a client who felt that their parents were rejecting them, their parents didn't want to be there. And when we explore, noticing what actually one of the parents had an illness and actually didn't want to share, was scared of sharing, of being a burden to the other person. But then that was received as rejection. There was a reason for that. And the friend, again, who didn't perhaps, who believed that the person that being rejected didn't actually want to take part in those lockdown quizzes, so didn't include them because their friend goes, oh, I hate Zoom, I hate doing these quizzes. So they go, well, let's not ask them because they don't like it. And yet there's that person who feels rejected. We expect others. What we do is we expect others to act the same way that we do. And I've heard it so many times. Well, that's not what I would do. That's not how, you know, I would carry on with that. We have this expectation that others have the same morals, the same values, the same beliefs. And when we don't, then it can cause these feelings of rejection. Someone behaves differently from you. And perhaps coming home from work, you know, our way might be to put our own needs, our tiredness aside, and with our partner, sit and chat with our partner, with a housemate, so that then the hurt and the disappointment when someone else doesn't react exactly the same way, then they take it personally. It goes in, it's a personal slight, a personal hurt. When we misinterpret the meanings of others, we're taking it personally. If we misinterpret what they're saying, then it goes in as personal. We feel hurt, even though there is absolutely no intention from the other person to reject. but we interpret them, all of those experiences, as rejection. Of course, when it comes to being unsuccessful in an audition, in a job interview, being unsuccessful getting into the drama school of your choice, then yes, okay, that's rejection. The rejection that's intended to say, well, we intend to say, no, you're not successful. And it's important for you to acknowledge that hurt. But yeah, it does hurt because your hopes were built up for this. But recognize it, although you acknowledge the hurt, but recognize it as a short-term setback. That's all it is. It's a short-term setback, not a permanent condition. And if we can look at it that way, if we can take it as a learning opportunity, perhaps, then we can move through the rejection. It doesn't sit with us. It doesn't get into our core. What I've noticed with clients is that those clients who take things personally, expect that others will blame them, and what they end up doing is blaming themselves. That was my fault. Oh, I didn't get that job because, yeah, it's my fault. I didn't do it right. They blame themselves. Speaking to a producer just in the last few months, and we were talking about self-blame, and that very question that said, well, what did I do wrong? That was the question. The self-blame was there. And one of the examples was with the client who, when working, the producer who was working, received a comment from one of the team that said, you know, I'd like to see it done this way. And the client was straight there. Immediately they were straight into, this is personal. This is about me. And of course it wasn't. It wasn't personal. It was just someone actually simply sharing how they would like a piece of work done. But when we take it personally, when it's about us, we're straight into that hurt. We're straight into that rejection. Taking things personally is usually us feeling rejected in some way. If you step back and go, is there a time where I've taken something personally? There is probably that feeling of being rejected in some way. It might be what somebody does, you know, their actions that's caused that. It might be just the words that they use, the tone of their voice, even, or just a look, you know, that kind of sideways look or a raised eyebrow. And then we take that, we interpret it, and we take the hurt, we take the rejection from that. And yet what's intended? Even if the words or the behaviour or that look isn't intended to be hurtful, then we can take it in and we can process them as hurtful. And we take it as rejection. Generally, what is happening is that our emotional filter just isn't working properly. The words that people say, we filter them. We ignore the positives, and then we just allow the negatives to get in there. The negatives that confirm the core beliefs we hold, the core beliefs we hold about ourselves from childhood. We filter out the positive messages, we allow the negative messages in. And it's not the first time that I've heard a creative relate feedback from an audition or self-tape or a workshop, and they relate that what they see as negatives. And it's only when I question the experience, when we start to chat about the whole experience, that they realise that, well, you know, there were actually a lot of positives in that feedback. There were a lot of positive comments. And even on balance, looking at it, the feedback was actually really very good. So Perhaps, you know, they go the silence with dogs in the background. The silence they noticed perhaps wasn't that other person thinking, they go, oh, what a crazy thing to say. That silence could just as well be, oh, that's a point I haven't even considered. That's interesting. But we interpret, we take the silence, we take the gesture, the words, and we put it through that negative filter, and we come up short. We come up with blame about ourselves. That was me being stupid. Oh, I've said the wrong thing. And why does all that happen? Well, something I've talked about several times is the messages that we receive as children. The experiences we have as children, they become the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. The beliefs we hold about ourselves, the world, the people in it. And I wonder what experiences or core beliefs that you hold about yourself from childhood. Those experiences that perhaps fed in to some negative core beliefs about yourself. The beliefs that become a deep-rooted part of ourselves. What I notice is that these beliefs are so deep-rooted that we hold on to them for dear life. We just don't want to let them go. We're resistant. Oh, I've lost everybody. Oh, no. I seem to have lost everybody. Oh,
Mary.
Oh, I seem to have been cut out for some reason. Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, you're still here. We can still hear you, don't worry.
Oh, it disappeared on my screen. So sorry, and I thought I was lost. I'm talking.
No problem. You are not lost. We could see you the whole time. Don't worry.
Talking into an even bigger void, I think. What was I saying about those core beliefs that are so deep rooted, that we do hold on to them for dear life? I find it with clients that if I start to point out a belief, a core belief that just isn't true in their adult life, the reluctance to let it go. And I know, I've said that before, that resistance to let go of these beliefs. Because those beliefs, well, they're familiar. They give us a sense of security, strangely enough, that even when they're triggered, they cause us to feel anxious, and lead to those feelings of hurt and rejection. Even though they're there, they still give us that sense of security. They're familiar. We've lived with them for such a long time. We don't want to let them go. In fact, it's easier to hold on to an old, outdated, probably untrue belief than to change it. There was an author, and I can't remember, I think it was Kopp, and what he wrote was, we prefer the security of known misery to the misery of unfamiliar insecurity. We prefer the security of known misery to the misery of unfamiliar insecurity. We would rather sit with those negative emotions than risk the unknown. And it may seem strange, but it's what I see day after day in the therapy room. And if you stop and think and you go, is that you? Is that something that's familiar? Holding on to these beliefs about yourself, even when you go, well, they can't really be true if we look at the evidence, but that fear of letting them go because they're known, they're comfortable in a strange way. So perhaps it's worth checking your own filter. Do you recognize that you often, maybe more often than not, maybe always, filter out the positive messages that you receive from others and only allow the negatives in? Is that confirmation bias? What we believe about ourselves, yep, that confirms it. that goes against what I believe about myself, so I'm not even going to entertain it. So it's stepping back and thinking, is that you? Is there that confirmation bias, negative things that you believe about yourself? A client some time ago talked about, we were talking and he had mentioned a WhatsApp group, but they didn't want to be part of the group. And when the group chatted, and then the group organised a holiday, they arranged a holiday, and one of the friends messaged the client, inviting them to join the holiday. And the client immediately felt left out of the planning stage. They felt, oh, I wasn't even part of arranging that holiday, where we would go, when we would fly. And because of that, they felt hurt and they felt rejected. And they couldn't see the positives. They couldn't see the positives of that despite not being in the WhatsApp group, where that choice to be absent from the group was accepted, that they had not been forgotten, and that their friends had cared so much and wanted to enjoy their company. All they could see was the negative. I wasn't even part of planning. They clearly don't want me. I'm an afterthought. And that's our negative filter. And as we explored the situation in therapy, that experience in therapy, we discovered childhood experiences that resulted in feeling excluded and feeling rejected. And they were triggered by this. That's what happens with those core beliefs, that those childhood experiences were triggered by that WhatsApp group experience of the holiday. The positives weren't allowed in, just the negatives, as the negatives confirmed that core belief of, I'm not wanted, I'm not popular, no one pays me attention, whatever, confirming those beliefs and the feeling of rejection that comes with that. What people say and what we hear them say can be very different. And I'm sure you've experienced that, or you've been the person saying something and someone else has experienced that quite differently from what you intended. And yet, even when the message isn't clear, we often don't check out what the other party actually means. There's a fear there. We'll take the hurt, we'll take the rejection, and yet we don't check it out. And one of the reasons for that may well go back to childhood. For that, where we don't check it out, it might be that we were never encouraged as a child to ask questions. Maybe quite the opposite, that you don't speak up, you don't talk back, you don't question what you're being told. So as children, if that was the case, then we had to guess. We would have to guess what was meant by the words that were being said, and often we guessed wrong. And so we feel hurt because we never learned how to ask someone what they actually meant. We just take it in with that filter and we draw our own conclusions. We feel the hurt, we feel the rejection. And I wonder if you're someone who worries or who debates for days or even weeks about what someone meant when they said something to you, or they sent a message to you. Oh, what do they mean? And you take that in. Do you sit and you just, you worry about it? And if you're able to step back and check with yourself, if you're hearing someone's message through your own negative filter, and that would help. And also remembering that the messages they give may be more about them than about us, about ourselves. The messages sometimes that we receive are about the individual giving them and not about us. And I was reminded of this morning, actually, when I was talking to a client, and he had been expressing his lack of joy, his disappointment, his concerns about the industry at the moment. When a friend challenged him, and the friend had said how hurtful it was that he was saying these things about the industry, and that, well, he should consider how his thoughts actually affected other people. And there it was, both sides feeling hurt, both sides, and one feeling rejected. And when I heard that, and you go, and I wonder if that criticism of the client, I wonder if that criticism that was aimed at the client by his friend might actually be more to do with the friend struggling with his own issues. So it can be helpful, really, to remind yourself, instead of just going instantly to feeling hurt, to feeling rejected, to remind yourself that this is most likely not about me, that they are more likely talking about themselves. And I can say that from a therapy point of view, from clients, that is often the case. And it goes back to that parent who maybe go, oh, not sure if it's a good idea for you to come and stay throughout lockdown. That was about the parent. That was more about the parent and their concerns over causing stress because of their own illness. So it's worthwhile taking that step back and thinking that the other person's reactions actually be more about self-protection than rejection. Misunderstandings can lead to feelings of hurt. So if we can find a way to communicate clearly, well, we can avoid those misunderstandings. You maybe come back to me with, yeah, but I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, Mary. I don't want to rock the boat by, going back and questioning someone about what they say. So what's the choice? What you do is then you sit there with the hurt, you sit with feeling misjudged, you sit with feeling rejected. What I suggest to clients is that being assertive can address those situations, that, instead of the potential hurt that's there, that if you can be assertive, and so it's not a case, instead of use statements, being assertive instead of, oh, when you said that, it really hurt me. When you said that, it was wrong, it was bad. That choose I statements instead. That, you send a message then that you're not blaming someone for the behaviour, for their words or whatever. So instead of, you might say, well, how dare you speak to me like that? Where the blame is there, you perhaps use, when you raise your voice, it upset me. So it's about I was upset by that. And it's expressing how a person's words or behaviour affect you. And it's worth practicing, because it does save all those misunderstandings. It saves the hurt that you might feel by just check it out. What you, with your friend, with your housemate, when you did this, when you said this, I felt isolated. I felt hurt. Then it comes back and you go, okay, that's all well and good, Mary, but why is it then? So why is it that one person can leave an unsuccessful audition as such and move easily on to the next one, and then another person struggles with that rejection? They see it as hurt, rejection, they take it personally. And I would suggest that the answer lies in childhood, that the core beliefs about self that were set in childhood. So it's perhaps taking time, as I say, to step back and think, what is it? Are there things, core beliefs there that were set in childhood that are not serving me well at this moment. And it might be those core beliefs that not good enough. It might be expecting too much of oneself, the expectation of others, the expectation that was put on you from parents, from teachers, from peers, and that feeling that you're letting other people down. And there, so that rejection, you take it goes in as personal. Perfectionism that I've spoken about before, that unrealistic expectation of oneself to be perfect. Impossible to be perfect. We all make mistakes. But that's sort of the unrealistic expectation you have of yourself. And that if what you see as a failure, then you go, I'm less than perfect. And the hurt, the rejection, taking it personally. Perhaps setting unrealistic goals is one as well. And you may ask why not getting through, and this has happened, that you go, well, that's fine, but why is it then that there's one edition that I didn't get through, and that's been fine, and then suddenly there's that one edition and I'm a wreck. I can feel it. The anxiety is high. I'm in tears. I'm distraught. And that rejection, because that rejection just floors the person. And again, I would suggest that a core belief has probably been triggered. A core belief that may not have been triggered in audition, self-tape, ABC, but then something happens, a word, a look, and that core belief is triggered. And of course, it isn't just about auditions and self-tapes, and I know this is around creatives, but those feelings of rejection, if you step back and look again, they can be triggered in friendships that we've talked about, triggered in relationships, even a comment that wasn't aimed at you, that's overheard, can trigger those core beliefs. So recognizing the messages of rejection and the consequences of those messages is the first thing when you're taking something personally. Recognizing the messages of rejection. And if you recognize those messages of rejection, you can start then to separate the now, the here and the now, from the then, from the child who was hurt, from the child who took in those messages of not good enough, or I shouldn't speak up, or nobody likes me. Those messages that we take in and those experiences, and start to look at the situation objectively. Being objective, perhaps it might be, if it's an audition, I see that I just wasn't right for that role. It just wasn't suitable for me. The realization, well, I see they were actually looking for something quite different that isn't me, that I don't have to offer. So it's important to identify the childhood messages if you can, and maybe to do that. And sometimes people come to therapy to help them find those core beliefs that they have about themselves, those unhelpful core beliefs that are no longer true, because they can be buried so deep. It's hard. You feel the emotions, you feel the anxiety, you feel the hurt, you feel the rejection, but for some reason you just go, but what's it about? And that's where therapy can help. But there's some questions that maybe you can take time to ask yourself. You can ask yourself that, going back to childhood, and go, in order to survive, I had to fill in the blank, or such something would happen. For example, in order to survive, I had to stay quiet, or I would get into trouble, or a row would happen. Another question, in order to survive, I had to be, I had to be the class clown, perhaps, or I would be bullied, or whatever would happen. So in order to survive, I had to be whatever, or such and such would happen. Another question to ask about childhood is, in order to survive, I had to do something, or such and such would happen. And perhaps the last one, in order to survive, I couldn't blank, or such and such would happen. So these are questions that you can start to ask yourself, how you had to behave, the things you had to do in order to survive childhood, in order to avoid being picked on, being bullied, getting into trouble. All of these things in childhood we do to protect ourselves, to survive, but they sit there, those core beliefs. For example, I can't speak up, because if I speak up, people will notice me, and I'll be bullied, I'll be picked on, I'll get into trouble at home. And yes, as a child, that worked. That was you were able to survive the difficulties. But once we get to adulthood, these behaviours don't work for us, and it's maybe then time to challenge, to look at that was then and this is now, and that there's the adult that you can deal with. You have the words to be able to speak up. So being able to say that, if you're in an audition, if it's a Celtic, whatever, personal relationships, friendships, those feelings of hurt, those feelings of rejection, if you find yourself taking it personally, you start to go, well, what is that about? What is it that's making me feel this hurt? And if you do that, it might help you see that some, as I say, those old childhood beliefs have simply followed you into adulthood and are no longer relevant. And you say, depersonalize the situation. Look at it, try to see it from the other person's perspective as well. Be objective, don't take it personally. And of course, you can choose to change things. And that will calm, it will take away the hurt, it will take away those feelings, the pain of rejection. The other thing I want to talk about was resilience, and this is because, here we are again in another lockdown, and I'm just watching this puppy who's, I think, eating some of my notes. And resilience, and this is where, apologies that I did have some slides to show you, but my technical difficulties mean I'm not being able to do it. I'm just looking to see in case it is at the bottom of my screen, but they're not. I had to shut the laptop down. So I'm sorry, I'm going to talk at you without being able to show you any pictures. I get the pictures, yeah, I can see them. But what is resilience? Well, we all have resilience, and resilience it's that capacity to adapt to a major disruption, COVID. And it's not, it's, you are a resilient person. Is it meaning? It's not really on the person. We all have traits, every one of us. We have traits that enable us to adapt, but it's about the resources that we have, that we can draw on, and the social support that we have round about us. I go, so how do we establish then an environment that allows, individuals to thrive in any difficult situation, particularly now? And resilience, it's about that sense of safety, hope, calm, and connections. And I'm going to, if I can just look to this old laptop, and round about resilience, and you go, well, I'm going to ask you some questions maybe and go, how resilient are you today? And you're going to rate yourself. 1 would be strongly disagree, up to 5, which is strongly agree. So 5, strongly agree, right down to 1, strongly disagree. And I can always send this on or have it posted somewhere if it helps. So let me ask you a few questions and you're going to score from 1 to 5. I'm usually optimistic. I see difficulties as temporary and expect to overcome them. So how would you score yourself? I'm usually optimistic. I see difficulties as temporary and expect to overcome them. 1, strongly agree, 5, strongly disagree. Number 2, I tolerate high levels of ambiguity and uncertainty about situations. I tolerate high levels of ambiguity and uncertainty about situations. Agree, disagree. Number 3, I adapt quickly to new developments. Where are you there? I adapt quickly to new developments. Number 4, I'm good at bouncing back from difficulties. I'm good at bouncing back from difficulties. Number 5, I'm playful. I find the humour in rough situations and can laugh at myself. I'm playful. I find the humour in rough situations and can laugh at myself. Number 6, I'm able to recover emotionally from losses and setbacks. Feelings of disappointment don't last long. So scoring yourself there. Agree, disagree. I'm able to recover emotionally from losses and setbacks. Feelings of disappointment don't last long. Number 7, I have friends to talk to. I can express my feelings to others and ask for help. I have friends to talk to. I can express my feelings to others and ask for help. Number 8, I feel self-confident, appreciate myself, and have a healthy concept of who I am. I feel self-confident, appreciate myself, and have a healthy concept of who I am. Number 9, I am curious. I ask questions. I want to know how things work. I like to try new things. I'm curious. I ask questions. I want to know how things work. I like to try new things. And number 10 is I learn valuable lessons from others' experiences and my own experiences. I learn valuable lessons from others and my own experiences. Just a few more. Number 11, I'm good at solving problems. I mix logic, creativity, and common sense. I'm good at solving problems. I mix logic, creativity, and common sense. You mark yourself there. Agree, disagree, 1 to 5. I'm good at making things work well. I'm often asked to lead groups and projects. This is number 12. I'm good at making things work well. I'm often asked to lead groups and projects. 13. I feel comfortable with my paradoxical complexity. I feel comfortable with my paradoxical complexity. Number 14. I prefer to work without a written job description or close supervision. I'm more effective when I'm free to do what I think is best. I prefer to work without a written job description or close supervision. I'm more effective when I'm free to do what I think is best. Number 15, I'm a good empathic listener. Number 16, I read people well and trust my intuition. 17, I'm non-judgmental about others and adapt to people's different personality styles. 17, I'm non-judgmental about others and adapt to people's different personality styles. 18, I've been made stronger and better by difficult experiences. Made stronger and better by difficult experiences. 19, I've converted misfortune into good luck and found benefits in bad experiences. I've converted misfortune into good luck and found benefits in bad experiences. Agree, disagree? And 20, I'm very durable. I hold up well during tough times. I'm durable. I hold up well during tough times. And then if you take some time to score that, clearly maybe not now that you can go back and look at that. So let me just give you a note of what the scores would be. That if you score 80 or higher, then you are outstandingly resilient. And I'll say, well, keep going. That's great. If you score 65 to 80, then you're more resilient than not. Great. 50 to 65, fairly resilient, but could be more so. 40 to 50 suggests struggling with resilience, and 40 or under, well, it's maybe time to take some action and see what's getting in the way of that resilience. And maybe a little exercise you can do, because I say we're all resilient, and here's something you consider. That think of a time you felt particularly resilient, a time you responded positively to something challenging. And that might be that rejection, audition, self-tape, whatever. It might be something around a relationship. A time you responded resiliently positively to something challenging. Lockdown, the first lockdown. How did you react to that? So, and then ask yourself some questions. What were you doing? Why it was that you felt resilient at that time? What was going on for you that qualifies your response as resilient? Start to look into it. What was it about me? Maybe what other people would have noticed about you at that moment. And then even though you list the skills and the qualities and the resources that made up your resilience on that occasion. What was there? Those skills, those qualities that made up your resilience on that occasion. And if you then reflect on, on that time, on the skills, the qualities, the resources that you called on, think then, at that time I did that. How can I perhaps draw on all of those again when you need them? What can I do to ensure that resilience? I'm thinking back at this time. There are 4 things. I'm conscious of time. Yeah, we're okay. There are probably 4 dimensions of resilience, and quite straightforward. The 4 dimensions of resilience, the 4 pillars of resilience that keep us strong as such. The physical, the mental, emotional, and social. So physical, what can you do to help that resilience? Well, good nutrition, right back to the basics. Good nutrition, exercise, making sure that even in those dark nights, that if you are working, is to find some time for a little exercise, some yoga at home. Breathe, absolutely, remembering to breathe. And sleep, getting enough sleep. And you think, well, if that's you, that physical, take some time and go, well, what actually drains my energy? What is it that takes that energy away from me? How can you then avoid or mitigate that drain on your energy? That's the first pillar, physical, doing what you can to keep that pillar strong. And then there's the mental pillar as well. And that's keeping your mind active. And keeping your mind active supports the mental resilience. And that can be things like mental challenges, quizzes, crosswords. No one mentions Zoom quizzes. Yeah, not this time. But mindfulness, meditation, visualizations, all of these contribute to the resilience, to keeping that mental health as well. And one of the things that, again, you know, an exercise you can do is maybe consider a difficulty that you're facing at the moment, and pick a date in the future, maybe 2 years, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So the difficulty just now, consider 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And what you can do is you can write a letter to your future self. From your future self, right? From your future self to your present self. And that, visualize a time when all your troubles have been resolved. And you get your future self to write to your current self and tell them all about it. Explain how you found the solution, how much better life is now that you've found a solution to the problem. It's that, you know, that things will change. It's that hope. And your future self can reassure the current self. And that's part of maintaining that mental stronghold. And writing is such a powerful tool. You know, it's connecting your own, all those hidden resources within you. That writing is wonderful. And if you can actually visualize that desired outcome, it becomes easier to turn it into a reality. The third one is emotional. That, you know, part of the resilience, the third pillar is the emotional pillar. And emotional memories, such as remembering wonderful holidays when we had holidays, successes in school, successes in your career, successes in work, the laughter that you've had with friends in the past, good relationships that you were proud, when you were proud of yourself. And one of the things that I find really works for people is that if you find a photo or an object, such as perhaps, you know, a certificate or a souvenir that reminds you of a time when you felt really good about yourself, get back in touch with those feelings. Sorry, my dog's beginning to ask for dinner. And what you can maybe do is think about making those things visible around the house. You know, place that certificate somewhere, place that object somewhere. Ambush yourself with emotional support. Ambush yourself with emotional support. That you walk into a room and it's there, you see it. And that emotional support, those happy times, those successes, and you're reminded of them. And the social, and very important, particularly during lockdown, because social isolation, loneliness, it can destroy your resilience. So stay in touch with family, stay in touch with friends as much as you can. Can make a chart, you know, if that's your thing, make a chart of family, friends, personal connections, and then think, is there a way that I can actually strengthen these links? And those 4 dimensions, if you know, so if you're looking at them, if you can maintain them, the 4 dimensions of resilience, that's what will equip you for life's challenges. That's what will equip you during this time when the industry is in such turmoil, when there is that fear around COVID, around jobs, and that. And if you find it difficult, you know, to tackle whatever the problem is, if it's difficult to tackle it immediately, then perhaps you start looking at the emotions that are involved, so that you start to feel less stressed. So, you know, personal, the emotional resilience skills, the resilience skills needed to manage your personal life, the social, the resilience skills needed to cope with your social world, particularly at the moment, life, the resilience skills needed to cope with life itself. And very, very briefly, if I've got time, the personal skills in the self, one of the things there that's included is self-acceptance. Accepting just who you are, and again, something I've talked about before. Self-acceptance goes a long way to those personal skills. Dealing with the uncertainty of life. Cope with the failure and the success in life. The success, the failures, the rejections, the things that you may take personally. And that's it. Those 4 pillars, if you follow, that we all have, every one of us, that resilience that allows us to bounce back from times of adversity that the industry is facing at the moment. Recognise that we all have it in it. Just take some time to recall all those strengths, all those skills, all those qualities, all those experiences that you've worked through that have taken you through some difficult times, and they'll take you through these difficult times ahead as well. And that's us. Thank you. Sorry about the laptop and the picture. My pictures were great. Okay. Any questions, please email mary@industryminds.co.uk. I think so. If there's anything, or you wanted a copy of that questionnaire, please just email me. I'm happy to send it. Aisha, sorry. How am I for time?
Yeah. Hello, you are perfectly bang on time, Mary. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. Okay.
And I have to say, even without your slides, that was still such an informative talk. I feel like we got so much from you. We didn't need those slides. That would have just been loads.
And I will take that as part of that, is taking compliments and saying thank you, and not going, but, you know. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You're a shining example of your own work, Mary. We've had some lovely comments come in. Yvonne said, thank you, Mary. It's surely a lot to do with communicating clearly. Very difficult if you are willing to communicate and the other person isn't. I will use your strategies using the term when. And then another one that we had in earlier on was Bryony, who said, love your sessions, Mary. Why can't I speak anymore? Love your sessions, Mary. Your outlook and how you explain yourself really resonates. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very, very kind. And this is my last one. So CPI has done such an amazing job for all the creatives out there. And so sad. I don't know if it is coming to an end or if it will continue.
Yeah, we've got 3 weeks left now, so we really are nearly there. But thank you so much, Mary, for what has been a wonderful session. We very much enjoyed having you on. All the different times you've come in and shared your wisdom with us. It has been absolutely fantastic. So on behalf of all of our viewers, thank you, Mary.
I'm away to deal with these noisy dogs now. Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy. Okay. Time to get their dinner.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Oh, what a lovely way to finish the day. And I hope you go into your evenings now feeling refreshed and ready to go and resilient. Coming up tomorrow, we have plenty more in store for you. We'll be having a coffee morning with Sit in the Stalls at 10 o'clock. Then at 11:30, Ashley Luke Lloyd will be here doing jazz dance technique. At 1:30, we've got Directing Contemporary Rivals with Oscar Toman, part 2. So this is the add-on from what we've already done with him. Then at 3:30, we've got a Jiggle Fitness mix with Jiggle Fitness with Lydia from Jiggle Fitness. And then at 4:45, we've got a dynamic postural class with Gennaro King Teller. So loads to come up with there. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us today. Don't forget, all of the sessions are still up for 4 weeks. So if you feel like Mary's session was really useful and you want to write down all of those numbers, you are more than welcome to come back. See you.